Hey, welcome to episode 14 of Harmony and Friends, casual conversations about art and business. On today's podcast, we are going to be talking about successfully selling on Faire Wholesale. I have three amazing artists that are going to be joining us here very shortly, and if you have joined us before, you know the drill. Sit back, relax. We are almost ready to start. If you're new here, let me explain that. Just one second. So basically, because this is a live streamed podcast, what we do is we give everyone 3 minutes to make sure they see their alerts over on Instagram, over on YouTube, and well, make sure they don't miss any of the good information. But if you are watching the replay, just feel free to skip ahead. About 3 minutes in or so, I introduce the topic, and then maybe another 2 minutes later, the artists start introducing themselves. So feel free to skip ahead if you are not with us on this day, Saturday, July 15th, 2023. And if you are with us, thank you so much for joining us live. It really makes the whole thing such a fun experience for everyone involved. I can't wait to hear your questions, and we'll talk to you in basically a minute. So see you soon. By the way, if you are bored and there's just this 1 more minute to go, why don't you go check out some of the artists? I have linked the Instagram accounts and any other link they wanted to share below in the description. They're also here on the screen. And feel free to open up another window, have this one open in the background so you don't miss what you came here for to begin with. But yeah, why don't you go check out their art and any business advice they might be sharing there. Feel free to give them a follow and say hello and let them know that you found them through this podcast. Just about 30 seconds more to go, and then truly we are going to start. Hey, I hope you can hear me. Yes, you can. It's Harmony. Welcome to episode 14 of Harmony and Friends, casual conversations about art and business. Most of you already know me. If you don't, I'm a watercolor artist and the host of this show, and I'm not going to give you a long intro today. We are going to jump right into meeting the artists for today's topic, which is selling on Faire Wholesale and doing it successfully. So with that, let us welcome our artists. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Hi. So good to have you here. I'm so keen on learning from you today and hearing all about your experience. It's such a great topic. So, Sophie, why don't we start with you? Can you just give us like a 1 to 2 minute intro? If there's anyone watching that doesn't know who you are, hasn't seen your art business, what do you do? And yeah, that's basically it. Share a little about yourself.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Sophie. I live in London. I have a business called Sophie Amelia Creates. That is my name there. So I'm a greeting card designer. I have my own collections that I sell mostly to lovely posh stores all over the UK and in America and in Canada. I also do greeting card kind of like freelance design for big companies. I work mostly in watercolor and ink, and that's kind of it. I've been doing it full time for about 3 years now. All of my stuff is sort of like vintage inspired, kind of cottage core sort of vibes. Yeah, guess that's about it.
Yeah, and if you haven't seen Sophie's work before, she has such a strong style. Like I could pick it out of a million cards. Like that's always, that's Sophie Amelia Creates. It's very, very clear. So I'm really inspired by that consistency. It's very cool.
Okay,
Thanks for joining. Awesome. Morgan, your style is totally different. So I would love to hear about your company, your card designs, what's behind them.
Yeah, so my name is Morgan Swank, and I own Morgan Swank Studio, where I create bright and bold illustrated paper goods for fun humans. So I use a lot of alcohol markers, and I also use digital. So I use a lot of Procreate as well. And sometimes I combine both of those to get the end result that I want. So yeah, I love a good splash of color. I try to create like a very unique style. And I have been selling wholesale for about 3 years, but 3 years ago was the start of the pandemic. So it kind of got put on the back burner to my actual job. And yeah, about a year and a half ago is when I really started revving up wholesale and being more serious about selling. And then I've just about a year ago, I started doing this full time. So wholesale is the main part of my business. I also do retail through my website and through different craft fairs or different shows. And then I also teach online and in person. And I do some licensing work as well. So that's...
I just love the tagline that you shared. That's so, so cool and memorable. That's
Thank you.
I like that. Lucy, welcome. You have a totally different kind of wholesale business.
It is very, very different. Yeah. So hi everyone, I'm Lucy. Like Sophie, I'm based in London as well. And I own a business called Bear Kind. And we actually sell socks, so it's very different. But 10% of the profits are donated to the animal on the socks. So there is some art involved because we're very kind of design centric around the kind of animal designs we've got on the socks. We've got some really funky designs, some very cute designs. So that's the kind of, I guess, art background. But really, we've done very well on Faire. It's been an amazing channel for us, and I'm so super excited to be talking about it today. I've done a lot of my own like content and videos and things on YouTube talking about Faire and why we've done so well on it. And we're releasing a course soon that's like teaching other business owners how to do Faire. So yeah, really excited to be here and actually having a conversation about it, because a lot of the time it's just me to camera just chatting away about Faire. So this is far more interesting.
Yeah, definitely check out Lucy's channel. She has really, really great content. I think that's how I found you, to invite you for this for this podcast. So definitely, if this podcast is whetting your appetite at all, go check out. I think you have entire playlists on that topic, so you can really keep diving in deep. Alrighty. Well, welcome all three of you. I'm super excited to hear about you. And because this is a focus on art business and the people watching, are artists themselves, and either they haven't started a company yet or they have, but they're really trying to grow it. So they're always curious to understand where you're coming from. It's not a contest. It's not about, who's the farthest along in their journey, but it's just interesting because we have people that are, maybe they haven't opened on Faire yet. They're not even there yet. They don't really know what it is. They've never seen behind the scenes. And then we have other people who've been on there maybe for a few months and it's just not working, so they're coming from a different point. So all of that to say, there's going to be someone who can relate to you or be inspired by you on this podcast, even if you're at different points. But they're all curious to know what that point is for you. So Morgan, you touched on it a tiny bit. I'll start with you if you want to elaborate, and then anyone can jump in. But I'd love you all to answer. What income streams do you have from your art? You don't have to give numbers, but just what are the different ways that you make money as an artist or with your company? Lucy, I don't know exactly if you're also the designer, but it doesn't matter. Just tell us what your income streams are. Morgan, do you want to start?
Sure. Yeah. So my primary income stream right now is through wholesale. And that comes through both, I work on Faire, and then I also have some sales reps as well. And I do a lot of my own outreach, which has been helpful because I am able to lead them to Faire. And then I do art licensing. So I just signed a deal for all of Canada with someone for my greeting card designs. So they'll be dealing with the production and distribution of those up in Canada, which is great. And I also teach. So I have some Skillshare classes, mostly based on illustration, because that's my background. I am an artist turned entrepreneur. So that's been really fun to be able to share, just to be able to teach people how to create art. And I also teach at the museum here in the summers. And yeah, I think that's primarily where I have the majority of my income streams.
That's kind of cool. I don't No, maybe one other person that I've had on these podcasts has mentioned teaching at a museum. So I don't think it's super common. It sounds really interesting. Thanks for
Fun.
sharing. Who wants to jump in next?
I can do. So interesting you are. So I used to design the socks myself. It was, do you know what, it was one of those things in COVID where I had extra time. So I was hands drawing everyone's Christmas cards. Then I was like, oh, I could do this on the socks. So I did. And now I've outsourced it to a real designer because I can get good enough and the socks sell well, but her designs are a level up from me. But yes, because I've got a product in this way, wholesale is a big income stream for us. Q1 to Q3. So this kind of time of year, we're really relying on those retailers who are selling in person because I don't have brick and mortar myself. But our website goes crazy at Christmas. You know, I'm selling socks, so great. Stocking fillers, gifts. So a lot of our income we're very, very seasonal. So it's an interesting one for us to ride out for the rest of the year because summer, you know, it's quite quiet for us at the moment. Everyone's in their sandals and flip-flops. So a bit quiet. So we do rely on our wholesale sales. So Faire's been really good for us in that way. Few other wholesale channels that I'm on Etsy as well, but that's a small portion. So it's mainly between my website and the wholesale channel. But I've got a trade show next year. So hoping to break into bigger retail as well, because great, I've worked with a lot of independent retailers, but I've also got, you know, can we get into that flagship John Lewis? It would be over here in the UK. I don't know who it would be in America, but that would be a really exciting opportunity for us.
I'm crossing my fingers for you. That would be very, very exciting. And so do you, in the summer, I'm assuming though, you said it's quiet, but I'm assuming that's from the money coming in, but you're probably very busy actually prepping for
honestly, yeah.
Q4, right?
It's like, been crazy busy this week. Yes, it's quiet from a money front. And this is kind of why we're looking into, you know, this digital course that we're selling is kind of to help fund the stock that we need to buy for Christmas. So it's a weird time of year. So 60% of our revenue comes in November and December. Wow. Which is crazy. So then we have to like make that cash flow work throughout the rest of the year. So I'm learning a lot. I'll say that.
Wow, thank you for sharing that so openly. Yeah, I think that's a lot with any kind of retail. I mean, even if you're not, you know, directly and direct to consumer, but socks especially, I can imagine. Yeah, it's like that extra Christmas gift that everyone picks up. Very cool. Thank you for sharing. Sophie?
Yeah, I'm kind of basically the same, really. Most of mine is wholesale, which is majority of it is on Faire, but for the bigger stockists, they always go direct. So that, and then I also have my own website, which is direct to consumer, and then other things, sort of like event illustration. I still do a bit of that here and there. I've never really done any teaching. Yeah, so I think that's about it. Oh, yeah, and then there's the freelance illustration for, you know, big companies. Yeah, so a little bit of everything, but the most of it is wholesale.
Awesome. Thank you very much for sharing. That is really helpful to set the scene. I'm going to just pop in an audience question. So this isn't actually for you. I'm going to pop this in so we can have a conversation going there in the background, and then we're going to dive into the next question on the show. So for everyone watching, tell us in the chat, have you ever sold wholesale yourself? And if yes, where or how? Like, are you, you know, doing the neighborhood boutique? Are you already on Faire? Have you tried this? And if no, what's holding you back? What is the biggest hurdle for you to get started? I'd love to know, so let us know in the chat. Okay, now next question for all of you. Lucy, let's start with you on this one. When did you start selling on Faire? And did you sell wholesale before you joined Faire? I know that platform isn't even around that long, so depending on when you started, maybe you've done it in other ways. And if so, how did you do it before you joined Faire?
Yeah, so before we joined Faire, a tiny bit of wholesale. I had about 20 customers that were, you know, quite small, but they're still with me. So they're good, loyal customers. We joined Faire in October 2021, and I kind of onboarded my current customers because they had great incentives back then. They were really trying to grow Europe as an option for Faire Wholesale. So we really took use of those incentives. But I'd say we didn't really look at Faire as a good growth option for us. We kind of said, great, onboarded, we'll just sit there, see what happens. It wasn't until February 2022 that we looked at it and thought, hang on, like there's a really good opportunity here. And so we just kind of pivoted and was like, let's put some work into it. And then we've just kind of gone on like hockey stick growth on Faire since then. Yeah, it's been crazy. And so now we're getting into this year. I know other places I've seen people talking about it's quietening down for them, but I think because we've been consistently pushing it, the algorithm loves us and is continuing to push us. See, it's kind of one of those, the more work you put in, the more you get back out. But yeah, so a tiny bit of wholesale before that was direct. I didn't really have a system or a process. You know, I had people coming to me on WhatsApp saying, can I have these socks, etc. So Faire has professionalized it, and it's also made my life much easier from an admin point of view too.
That's very cool. I'm super excited to actually hear about your growth because I had no idea you've been on there for such a short amount of time. That's really impressive stuff. And you watching have no idea what I'm talking about. We'll get into that. All right, who wants to go next on this one?
I don't
Jump
mind.
in. Oh, go for it, Sophie. Go for it.
Sorry, it was about how long I've been on there.
Yeah. And did you sell wholesale before you joined Faire?
Okay, yes. So I did. And that was all just kind of people finding me through Instagram, through my own outreach, that kind of stuff. I joined Faire probably about a year ago, and it was actually really rubbish for ages. Like I hardly got any kind of sales until I did a big trade show in London, and I met loads and loads of independent buyers, and lots of them shop on Faire. So therefore they were like, how can I buy, blah, blah. So I directed them to Faire and added their details. And then from then on, it's just like really blown up. So like Lucy was saying, it's massively, the more that you use it, the more you get out of it. Because I was like, it was crickets literally for months. And then all of a sudden it just like really, really boomed. But it was because I was putting loads of effort into it and getting obviously loads of sales. So yeah, so basically from January, that's how long it's been working for me. So not very long.
Yeah. Wow, that's really impressive too. Did you what fair did you go to?
Trade show.
Yeah.
Top Drawer.
Top Drawer. Okay, very cool.
So
that's also interesting. Yeah, to see that some of it, you're bringing your own customers, but then that's kind of boosting what Faire is giving back to you. So that's really interesting to hear.
Yeah, and you meet so many independent buyers, as in like independent store owners, as well as, all like the John Lewis and all that lot. So, Lucy, which one do you say you're going to do?
We are doing Spring Fair at the start of February, which is a massive one. We've actually won the stand. We're not paying for it, which is really why we're doing it, because they're so expensive. It's kind of one of those things of, is it worth going? And then you don't know if you might not get the return on investment on the day. So it's hard to kind of map back. But yeah, as you said, yeah, we're definitely going there for introductions to other independent retailers as well, not just the kind of John Lewis's. That's just kind of, I've just always said, wouldn't it be cool to be in John Lewis, because obviously they're so well known. But it's, if we could make the margins work, I don't know how much they'll end up squeezing us down if we manage to have a chat with them.
Well, you'll meet everyone at them, all types of stores.
Yeah, I've heard it's knackering.
Yeah, I've been on Faire. Actually, I was like, Faire came to me because some retailer had seen my stuff even before I like launched wholesale. So I don't know if they found me on Instagram and knew I was like developing a card line. So at the end of 2019, I got an email from them saying this retailer wants you on Faire, and so would you like to join? And at that point, I had been working on my card line, but was planning on launching at the National Stationery Show in 2020 in February of that year. And so I was like, I don't know what this is, but it sounds like it's a good, I was like, no idea what's going on. No idea what Faire was. I'm like, sure, I'll join. And yeah, it's not been, I haven't been one of those brands that has like had a ton of growth through Faire, but it's been a really excellent tool as I've done a lot of outreach to be able to direct people. And it's just, I think, as Sophie said, it's just makes it's very easy to systematize and like just very easy for buyers to use. And so the majority of people that I outreach to will buy through the Faire platform because it gives them terms that I can't personally offer them. So I started 2019, and then when I started doing more outreach post kind of the pandemic flare. So end of 2021 was kind of when things really started picking up. And so it's been a good tool since then.
That's really nice. And that's really cool that you were invited. And strange too that you're like, I don't even know what this is, you know? So,
I know, they called me. They're like, can we have a call? And I'm like, who are you guys? What is Faire? So and then I found out that some people had a hard time getting on. And so I'm just grateful. I'm grateful for this business because I think it would have been hard for me to, at that point in the US, to get on Faire. So
very cool. So this next question is a little more personal. So feel free to share as much or as little as you like, just to try to give an idea to the people watching, how your business is going based on Faire. So I would love to know, how many sales have you had on Faire, and what's your average order amount? If you don't want to, do that, you could do all the sales you've ever had, or what does a typical month look like, or anything that you want to share that gives us a better idea of your business.
Yeah, I can start if you like. So what are we at? We're over 1,000 orders on Faire since we've joined now. I know it's over £170,000 in revenue.
Wow.
Yeah, we're in about 700 retailers now, although some of those won't be direct through Faire. Some of those are a sprinkling of other places, but most of our sales are coming through Faire. It's a great channel for us. So as I said, we've had massive growth, and I think, we can dive into this more, but we've had, certain growth channels have done really well for us. So finding our niche, for example, we're in, and this is very different from the art world, but we're in a lot of podiatrists because our socks are good for your feet. So it's kind of finding those random niches. And I think, especially because podiatrists aren't necessarily on Faire in the first place, you can kind of bring them in, here's the incentive, get them onboarded, and then they start seeing other products. So, it's this thing of, yes, it's getting very saturated now, and it's great because lots of retailers are already on Faire. So it means that it's quite an easy sale, but it just means it's harder to get those incentives now. So I think we definitely did very well in terms of getting those early incentives in. And now it's about really getting your sales pitch right, and, putting the work in to actually get the sales keep coming in. So yeah, a lot of that growth came in those early days, but now we're starting to see that kind of show through in that algorithm, and we're getting a lot more marketplace sales now as well.
That's really impressive as far as the numbers. But what do you mean with incentives? Because I don't know what, I don't do wholesale yet. So I'm not here, and I have no idea what incentives were or are for the
so definitely worth me explaining. So in the early days of Faire, it depends where you're based. So in Europe, at least, this was the case. So when we joined the platform, they were saying, right, every retailer that you bring to Faire to sign up for an account and to buy with you and whoever else they fancy, we will give them £300 of credit to spend on your stock. And so we were just throwing this at people and saying it's free stock. And yes, we've had some people that have bought that amount and have never come back. That's going to happen, but it's still a great sale for us. Actually, average order amount, ours is about £100, which is quite low actually for wholesale, because wholesale historically is huge orders, but Faire has kind of opened it up and allowed independent retailers to kind of be able to afford to do it without spending thousands at a time. So the incentives were there. They've stopped that now. I think, they've lowered it. I think it's about, it used to, and then went down to £100 for a new retailer joining the platform. And now I think it's 50% off your first order if you hit a certain threshold. So the incentives you can see has kind of come down a bit in value. But it's also a lot of people are already on Faire, so they won't have those incentives. But there's marketplaces and sales throughout they've got Faire Summer Market as a thing coming up as well. So there are incentives throughout the year, sales and things, but that was a nice juicy one that we had last year that really helped with that kind of growth curve.
That's very cool. But, sometimes it's just about, sometimes if you're in the right place at the right time, it's going to make it easier for you to just grow. But that doesn't mean you can't, make it happen now. So if we've missed that, that's it.
No, we're still seeing great sales. Still seeing great sales without the incentive. It's just, make the most of what you've got. I think it's still a really good platform.
Yeah. But I also appreciate you mentioning that, because I think sometimes artists, retailers, whatever, they had a special place in time and a certain set of circumstances, and that really helped them accelerate their growth, and it's kind of not mentioned. Like, I did all this by myself, there was nothing.
Oh no, we had that. That really helped. Yeah.
Yeah, no, so I really, I appreciate you mentioning that, because that's something that made a huge difference for you. So that's
absolutely
very transparent. Thank you.
It's okay.
Morgan, how about you?
Yeah,
any info you can share here?
Yeah, I'd love to share. So I was looking through some of my stats, and I think one of the things that I've really focused on is like my average order value, like trying to like continue to bump that, and then getting like more reorders. So looking at some of the stats, I have like my conversion rate's about 10.5%, which I think for greeting cards, they say the average is like 5.9. So I think what's been helpful for me is like, if I can get people to like look at my page, there's like the conversion rate is good. I have a good chance of getting the sale. And then my average order value has like increased. So my minimum order value for opening orders for my greeting cards line is $150 and reorder is $100. And so my average order value is about $240.
Wow.
Which has been really helpful. And so 71% of my orders are reorders. So that's 29% are opening orders. So I've worked hard to like, but get new stores, but also like nurture the ones that I currently have. So I do a lot of postcards. I do a lot of email outreach. Since the market's coming up, I do a lot of personal emailing to people, consistent customers. And I've noticed that as I've continued to like nurture my relationships, put in thank you notes, handwritten thank you notes to my packages, I've noticed that my average order values have increased pretty significantly. So that's been more of the metrics I've been able to like, I guess, affect, besides doing cold pitching and getting stores in. But I certainly have not had the hockey stick trajectory, but trying to look at those other metrics and move those forward has been really helpful for me.
That seems like a really good way to solidify your business too, right? Because you can then maybe predict a little more, like how much are you going to actually have coming in different seasons, or every month, if you know that how often your retailers come back and what your average orders are and stuff. So I think that's a really solid footing as well to expand your business on.
And it's been great because I know certain like of the floor, like I have a certain like a group of florists, and I know exactly when they buy for Valentine's and exactly when they buy for Mother's Day, Father's Day, graduation. And so I kind of have like them, I have like a group where I can like target them like at the times that I know. So I've been able to like slot people in different sections of like, I know this person buys the majority of their stuff, fair winter market. So then they buy a lot. So like, let me make sure so I've been trying to be a little bit more strategic about, using the contacts I have and kind of understanding their patterns, and then trying to like create marketing campaigns where I can slot people in at different times of the year to make sure that I'm hitting them when they're like most likely to buy.
I love the strategy. This is very cool. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Sophie, how about you? Any numbers you can share?
Yeah, sure. I'm not as strategy savvy as these two, sadly. Yes, but I have had a look at my numbers and things. So my average sale is around about 220, which is, it's good for greeting cards because you always kind of sell them in packs. So they're always in packs of like at least 6. So cases is how they're called. So that's good. That kind of helps bump up the numbers. And since January, it's been about £12,000 worth of sales. So hopefully, I mean, that was obviously really good. Mother's Day was a massive thing. And then from the trade show, and then we've got Christmas coming up. So that's obviously going to be the biggest part of the year. So those are the main stats that I can really share.
Awesome. Thank you very much. That's super helpful.
And I haven't really done any of the emails. I'm not very good at like the background stuff, but I need to get better. So Morgan, I'm going to have to get your advice on how to do all the email things.
Sure.
I love it. Alrighty, so I'm going to take one step back, Morgan, once you've finished your sip. I think everyone watching knows, but just in case there's a person who really has never, I mean, Faire makes it a little difficult, I think, because if you are not selling there or buying, you can't really look behind the scenes from what I've seen. So a lot of people probably don't really know what is really Faire Wholesale, how does it work? Can you give us just like maybe a 2-minute simple overview of what it is?
Sure. And feel free if anybody has any additional things to add. Since I'm specifically coming from the States, this is what I know about Faire. So Faire is a wholesale platform where it's a place that helps facilitate purchases between wholesalers and retailers. So what it does is it creates a marketplace where every wholesaler has like a storefront essentially, and it shows like what their minimum order purchase order is. It bundles things, like Sophie says, into cases. So whatever case size you have for wholesale, you don't usually sell one-offs. Usually sell things like greeting cards. We usually sell in case sizes of 6, stickers in like 6 or 12. And so you have these different cases. And it's just a really easy platform for retailers to go and either purchase from people that they already know, be able to just add things to cart and just quickly purchase. And Faire does all the accounting behind the scenes. So that's also what's helpful for us as wholesalers, is that Faire is in charge of all the billing. And what Faire does is they also extend net terms. So in wholesale, as wholesalers, you can offer people that they can pay like net 30, where it means that you ship and then you get paid 30 days later. Or what Faire does is Faire will pay us on a net, or now they changed it. So currently, Faire will do a next day payout, a net 30 payout, or a net 60 payout to us wholesalers. And there's different incentives for us to choose either of those options. But what they offer to the retailer is net 60. So the retailer can purchase the goods and sell it and not have to pay Faire for 60 days. So this is incredible, especially if you have small businesses that are trying to purchase. This allows them to actually sell some of the goods before they actually have to pay you back. So, and then what also Faire does is they're the ones who are in charge of the billing, the tracking down, payment, etc., which is a big feature of Faire. Personally, for me as a wholesaler, billing and managing that side takes a lot of time. So that's a big bonus on this end. Also, they have an invoicing system, so you could even write orders for your customers and send through that. They just make the process very easy. They offer a lot of benefits. There are downsides to Faire, and I have personal downsides to Faire, but I also appreciate that there's a lot of good sides to it too. And it really is just a great tool for wholesalers and retailers to use. I don't think it's the be all end all. I don't think if you're not on Faire, your world is over. I don't think if you're are on Faire, it means you're just going to make it. But it really is a really good thing to have as an option as a wholesaler. Would anybody add anything to that?
The only thing I'd say, beautifully put, I think you covered that. I just think it might be slightly different. I think they do this differently in America to the UK. So I can cover off what the UK do. But in terms of how Faire make their money, the commission structure they use. So if someone comes to me, so for example, I mentioned my own customers that were already with me. They were my customers. I brought them onto the platform. There's 0% commission. So I get to use Faire as a sales tool, and all the items that Megan explained that we have, that 0% commission forever. So that's like locked in. But then if a customer finds me and they're on Faire and they're sitting on there already and they find me in the marketplace, if they search for socks and they find me, that's a 25% commission on the opening order. And it's a 15% commission on reorders from that customer. But I think it's now changed in America, hasn't it?
It has, but that is the big piece that I forgot. Yeah. So they do take a commission. Yeah. If you don't bring them direct, and that, currently in the United States, they just switched it that for the opening order, it's 15% plus a $10 new store fee. So essentially they're kind of incentivizing higher minimum orders to kind of cover that cost. And the other thing that Faire has been doing, I'm not sure if this is the same in the UK or other countries, but in the States, the I do a lot of wholesale outreach, and then the window of what they allow to be considered like your outreach to a store is continually narrowing. So I can like email a store and they could be like, yes. I mean, they could just like put an order in, and it can sometimes be hard to get Faire to accept.
Wow.
I've
So
seen
that's
that,
what,
yeah.
so that's been kind of what I would say is the downside currently for me, is as someone who does a lot of outreach, I've been able to bring in a lot of Faire customers at the 0% commission rate. But currently they're kind of constantly narrowing down what are we going to accept to say that you've actually done the outreach and that they are your customer. And that's getting a little bit, the rules continue to kind of fluctuate, and it's very unclear. So that's been.
What are they changing? Because I always find it really easy at my end to say, oh, they're already my customer. Sometimes I just have to like say, I've worked with them before, they found me on Instagram, and then they just always say, yep, fine.
Yeah. So it used to be very easy to do that, or I'd send like a screenshot and be like, hey, here's, and then I started getting pushback like, well, they didn't respond that they were going to purchase, so we don't consider that a cold outreach, or you haven't contacted them in the last 30 days. And I'm not sure, again, if that's whether there's, crunching down in the US since we've been in the market long, or whether that's across the board, but they've really been, I've noticed that I've had to stay on top of that a bit more and try to show more proof.
Like I said, I do not right now. I mean, I finally launched my own Etsy shop. Yay! But it took me forever, and I'm so far from wholesale. Like my margins are not wholesale ready right now. But I am still following the whole conversation about Faire, and I am seeing a lot of that feedback kind of from the US side, whether it's the fees, like just kind of more unhappiness, or just how do I deal with these changes? How do I still have my margins work and everything? So I do think maybe it's something that is popping up more in the US, and over in Europe, we're still lucky enough that hasn't happened. That could be it.
Maybe it'll happen to us soon, hey?
Yeah, that's the thing. I've seen exactly the same, that conversation of people getting really worried, thinking it's not going to work. And I think, as Morgan said, like it's just a case of it should just be one channel for you. Like you don't rely on it. It's okay if you're not on it or if it doesn't work for you. But I think from our point of view, we're going to try and I think we're lucky in the UK, the squeeze hasn't hit us quite yet. But we'll just try and keep making it work whilst it can. It's still great for, exposure and a great sales tool, but you just kind of try and make it work whilst it still works for you. But we, keep pushing on other channels just in case, because at the end of the day, they hold all the power. Like they could just switch it off at one point. That's it, done. And then it's like, that was my only sales channel. So it's just kind of a word of warning. But I think you can still make it work right now. Yes. But you just, as Morgan said, you just have to be really careful of like your margins and your MOQs, especially with those commission changes in America.
Yeah. And to piggyback on that, there's a question in the comments about what happens to your clients if you leave the platform. One thing that I do is I make sure to take all of the information I get from my customers. So whatever they have on Faire, I take that and I put it in a separate spreadsheet. And I might make comments. I might have comments of like what types of cards they'll purchase, or and then I also have an inventory system that kicks all the orders into an inventory system. So I have all of the information for that customer outside of the platform, because I have had my best customer went bankrupt at the beginning of the year, which was unfortunate for them and unfortunate for a lot of the retail, or a lot of the wholesalers that worked with them. But one day I knew that bankruptcy was coming. I followed them on Instagram, and all of a sudden I went on to Faire, and I'm like, this company, just like all of their records in my system just went poof. Like it looked like they had never been on Faire. All of the, like I could go into my orders. I could go into my orders and see their orders, but if I went to customers, they were no longer under customer. There was a couple, like there was a couple of things that like fell off that I'm like, it looks like they just never were here. Like they're no longer there. So what I do is whenever I get a new customer, I right away go and take all the information I have of their like contact name, who's the buyer, all the stats I can get on the company on the Faire platform, and I put it into my system. I also add all of them to my own email list. So I use a separate emailing. I do use Faire's messaging platform, but that can be difficult to get the send rates right. A lot of times they'll not send to, and that's a different conversation, but I use a different email platform, and I make sure to like put the buyer into my own email platform. And then I will contact people and say, thanks for buying, I'm adding this to this email to my email list, and you'll be receiving like monthly updates about wholesale.
I think Artie followed up here, and she's asking whether there's like any policies, rules on the long-term contact of what happens when a customer leaves Faire. Do you know at all?
They leave Faire or after you leave Faire?
Maybe either.
There are definitely rules. Like they don't like you canvassing for sales with someone that's Faire have found for you. If you as a brand, you leave. Okay, so if you as a brand leave the platform, this is the thing. If you break Faire's rules, they'll kick you off the platform. So I don't feel like it's a grey area, but if you've left the platform, they're just not going to, what they're going to do, I guess, just not let you back. And, one, do they police that? But yeah, so it's just if you're on the platform and don't want to be kicked off, then I'd say follow the rules. And it's easier, it's so much better for us just to leave the customers in the platform. That's what we do. But Morgan's right, like, have that customer data in case the platform disappears one day or something happens. Like at least then you've got all the information. Because from our side, the only thing missing from a marketplace customer is the email address. You have everything else, so you can find the email address, but we don't get given the email addresses for our marketplace customers. Do you, Morgan?
I actually, it depends on whether they submit them or not, but I'd say about 70% of the clients I have email addresses on, like their email address is on Faire.
Interesting. I wonder if we get blocked from seeing them on the. It's interesting seeing the nuances, but we've not been given them. But we can easily find it because you've got their address and their name and the company and things like that. Yeah.
And to be fair, I never just to clarify, when I put them in my own email platform, it's to market to them about Faire. Like I don't.
We do exactly the same.
I'm not trying 100%. To be like buy a different way, so that I'm very clear. Like I'll be like, this is just how they best receive updates. And then I tell them about the Faire market, and I tell them about, and I usually have a link to both my wholesale catalog, which is separate, and then my Faire. So
we do exactly the same. Yeah.
Great. I'm like, I'm not trying to
if Faire's listening, pick me off. Please don't take it away.
No, I mean, I'm sure Faire is happy, Morgan, that you are trying to drum up more business with the customers.
Absolutely,
and sending them back through Faire. I mean, I think you're fine. Don't worry. I think you're going to get flagged now.
Like, oh no.
All right. So I'm going to jump into one question before we start getting into some of the more advice bits. But I am curious because I think this is something that a lot of artists are also trying to figure out. So Morgan, for example, behind you, I see a big rack of cards. So I'm wondering, what are the expectations for turnaround on those orders from Faire? Like, are you expected to ship the next day, within 2 weeks, whatever? And does that mean that you have to keep a lot of stock on hand? How do you figure out how much so that you can even get into wholesale on Faire? Does anyone want to share their perspective?
I think it's really good in that sense that you can basically set it to what suits you. Okay. So I think at the moment, mine is at maybe like 22 days, like really long, because my stuff's all handmade. So I think whatever, you need to do, it allows that. So you can change it. And then obviously if you're doing something, if you're gone on holiday, for example, you can pause the whole thing. So it's really, really well made to be tailored to whatever your business is and your products, really.
Okay, that's really good to know. So you don't have to, because I always just thought like wholesale, they expect it to be out the door immediately. But in that case, you don't even really keep a lot of stock then if you're hand making things.
No, I'm changing everything at the moment, but that's another story. But yeah, it can be totally tailored to you. What was I going to say? Yeah, and it shows up on your like store page. Like if you order today, then the store will expect to receive it by a certain date. Mm-hmm. So they can, therefore, if they really need something, obviously the quicker that you can produce something, then the more likely someone is to buy from you. But then it just totally depends on the type of store that they are. You know, like they might want things that are quick. They might have been a massive need for, I don't know, a Mother's Day card, and then they'll choose what it is, who can fulfill the order the soonest. But yeah, it's really good to tailor it to you. I found that really helpful.
Do you switch it up, like around Christmas you ship faster or slower, or
yeah, and you can do like pre-orders and things like that. Christmas is massive, so that's really helpful. And then it kind of gives you an idea of how much stock you need to prepare, because you know you can see the orders come in before you actually have to do them, which can be quite scary.
That's cool. I didn't know you could do pre-orders. That's very interesting. Any other perspectives on this?
I switch my turnaround time up depending on whether how busy I am, or if I like know I'm going to be out of town, or you know, if like a market's coming up, I'll kick it out a few more days too, just to like give myself some breathing space. So I pretty much know, like with my cards, I know exactly how long it takes between like when I place an order at my printer to when I receive it, and that's usually. And then if I'm like running lower on stock, I'll make sure I push it out. But I usually try to keep it in the like, I'll be between the 4 to 10 day range for my stuff. If things are a little slow, I'll move it down to a faster turnaround time. And sometimes you do get stores that are just like, I need something faster. But I generally, I think, hover in the between 4 and 10 days.
They can always message you, can't they, and say, oh, please can you make my own a priority and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I've gotten texts from a buyer that's like, even florist, it's like, oh, I forgot to put in the order, like, and I'm like, I'll send it out tomorrow, like, just, submit it and I'll send it. So yeah, they can always message you. And I try to keep most of my stuff generally on hand, but I try not to like since I have such a large, with greeting cards, and I'm sure with socks, I don't know how many styles you have, but like I have over 200 SKUs. Wow. So I try to like effectively manage my inventory by not like buying too deep. So there are certain things that I do put a stock, like I have an inventory number on Faire for like, because I get washi tape from Taiwan. So I just have like the set amount, and I'm like, well, they'll be out of stock once I run out, because I can't turn around those.
So you can actually limit that. You don't have to say everything is available unlimited.
You can also toggle whether you can sell when it's out of stock or not. So like if you have inventory, you can say, it's basically, it will stop selling once that number runs down. And it will even alert the buyer on the front end, because I did create a retail account to just kind of like be able to browse and see stuff, retailer account. And it'll tell you like, oh, 4 cases of this left, or 2 cases. So like the buyer can see on the front end when things are running low.
Morgan, you just made me so happy, because like I said, like right now my margins are so far from it, and I don't have enough designs and stuff, but like one day wholesale is the whole goal of this. That's where I want to go. But with things like the tea towels or something, like I can't have them there in 2 or 3 weeks. If they're out, they're out. So that is super, super cool to hear that you can still do wholesale even on Faire, and just put in the stock that you have. And reorder, even if it takes a month or 2 or whatever, until you can sell them again. That is, I didn't know that. I'm really excited now. Thank you.
Helpful, yeah.
Lucy, do you want to chime in, or should we go to the next question?
Just, it is. I like to mirror what they've said, that it's a very flexible platform in that, because like things like you can actually put the date in for when the stuff is coming back in, so you can say, oh great, you can order it because it's coming back. If something's out of stock, like if I flick a product or a SKU to out of stock, I then get a little thing up to say when's it coming back, or just remove it from sale. So if I've got stuff coming in and I know it's coming, then I can say that's when it's coming in, or just remove it if it's easier. What's the other thing I was going to say? When you get an order in, you accept it and put the date that you're going to ship it. So then the platform is kind of learning when you're shipping stuff, you'll be rewarded. It will kind of penalize you if you're missing those dates, but they are not. I have a very short lead time because I have stock in, like I'm not hand making it, but obviously we can still, it doesn't matter. Like it doesn't matter if you have a short lead time or a long lead time. It's just about communicating it up front. So it's quite good for that. And actually when someone makes an order, they can select the button to say deliver on a future date. So I have that. If someone wants it in a couple of months' time, I can be like, great, the order's on the system. It will just go out automatically when that date happens. So the platform is very intuitive. They've built it to kind of make everything so much easier. So it's quite a good piece of tech actually in that sense.
It sounds so terrific. It just keeps getting better as you're sharing the details. It's a very cool platform. Alrighty, so now we are getting to probably what most people really want to hear, which is, what do you think has been your secret to success on Faire? Share your top 3 tips if you can think of them. If it's just one thing, if you have 10, just take it away.
Shall I go?
Yeah, please.
So I mentioned niches before. So for us, as I said, finding podiatrists, and I know that's not helpful for artists, but finding something that's kind of your niche. Maybe you've got a particular style of art or something that you think, okay, great, it goes well in a gift store, goes well in this boutique, but actually is there any kind of thinking outside the box of where else you could sell it? Because Faire are quite, I guess, relaxed with their rules on what counts as a shop. So, a podiatrist is a clinic, but they can still, sell products. So that's worked well for us. And I'd say coming to them from a trusted source as well. So we did email them directly from us through Faire and directly through us. But we also went to the Royal College of Podiatry and said, hey, we sell socks. We're selling them through this. Can we get on your email marketing list? And we sent an email about Faire and our socks from them to their own list. And we paid for that, but it more than paid for itself, because you're coming to them from a trusted source, that it's not just a cold email. So if there's some kind of like association or way that you can kind of get in touch with them, that was magic. The other tip is sending samples. You're trying to get these high value customers on board. Like, we've got some amazing average order values here coming in. So the price of sending a sample, if that converts someone, because maybe your piece of art translates much better in person, definitely does for us for socks. You want to try them, you want to wear them. That cost of sending that sample is minimal when it comes in as an order that's like £200-300. So I'd say that those are the main 2, but I'll hand over to someone else and I'll dive in if I think of something else fun that we've done.
Your podiatry example is so cool. I really love that marketing route that you went. It's so genius, because also, like, the competition in that sense is so much lower, right? Like, they're not getting daily emails from sock manufacturers like, please purchase our products and sell them to your patients. So that's genius. I'm really into this. Thank you for sharing.
That's
but
okay.
Yeah, like you said, like, anyone can use this kind of tip and see what else is outside of the gift shop or the boutiques that maybe everyone is going after, because it's the most obvious, kind of next step. But that's really applicable, even though yours is so niched. I love that tip. Thank you. Anyone else who wants to go next?
I'd say a good tip is to get a professional photographer, so that all of your images are proper high res, they look really nice, all very similar, and don't make them too fussy. Also, quite a big tip, when I first started, I had the chat with the guy, which I think everyone has, but something that he told me that was really helpful was about the names of each of your products and each SKU. So don't just call it, for example, I started off to all of my designs have names. So say there was a card that had a cat on it, it would be meow or whatever. So he told me that I need to put like a proper full description of it. So it would be something like, okay, let's use different examples. Say a card that had like a baby rattle on it. He'd say, don't call it rattle, call it new baby vintage rattle greeting card. So give it a full name so that you're hitting the word vintage, you're hitting the word greeting card, you're hitting baby, and then you're hitting rattle if anyone's looking for something with a rattle on it. So therefore, you're in the search, you're getting loads and loads more algorithm hits. So make sure your product names are really strong, really good pictures. Just thinking what else. Did I write anything else down?
How do you organize that then with the photographer? Do you just like do like whatever for like, because I know you actually release a lot of cards, it seems, at least on Instagram. Like I love it. I was like, oh my God, this is so beautiful. A new one. But how do you work around that then with the photographer? Like, do you just have them photograph something every 3 months and give them like kind of a bulk of them, or,
Yeah.
or is it a good friend to be able to stop by on a Sunday?
No, it would be like make 2 main photo shoots a year. So I'll have Christmas main one, and then photo shoot for everything that's not really Christmas. So it's like spring, summer.
Okay.
Yeah, and then Christmas and autumn is wrapped into one. Yeah, and it's I don't know if you guys, how did you first import your stuff? Because so I had my direct consumer store was on Shopify, and that's really good to start off on Shopify, because it pulls through all of your products onto Faire. So that's a really good tip if you're looking to do your store first of all direct to consumer, and then start with that, and then it's really seamless when you want to transition onto Faire, because you just type in the hashtag that yanks through everything, all the names, all the pictures, and it's great. It's really easy.
That is super cool. I like that efficiency. It's always nice.
Yeah. I'll talk on another bit about like nurturing customer relationships and reorders. So I like to send a lot of in every order I send samples here. So I have a little thing about me and my business cool. That talks a little bit about my company, why I started it, the amount of stores I'm in, etc.
And it reminds you there's a real person on the other end with the photo.
It's like, hey.
Yeah.
And so I talk about things that I'm committed to as a brand, things that I appreciate. And then I also have, so this is one of my designs, but I just have a flat card of it. And then I write a handwritten note. Like I'll put whoever the buyer's name is, I'll write their name and I'll be like, thank you so much for your order. I love being, and I'll put their shop and like, let me know if you have any questions. And I put my name and my phone number on it. And then a couple weeks later, they will get another one that has a, flat lay on the front, and it just talks about like thanking them for their order. And then Faire also has something that I don't remember when it came out, but I just recently started using it. There's a automation under messages that after 60 days, it will automatically send to a stockist who hasn't reordered. So you can go and customize that, and it's just an automation, so we'll automatically send. And I've noticed that like I turn that on, and I feel like it's been helpful to just keep me, it's not a threatening message. It's not like, don't buy from me or else. It's like, hey, like, I hope you love the products. Like, let me know if you have any questions. Like, again, saying like, I'm here if you need anything. Love being in your shop and would love to send you more cards or stickers, and then at Christmas time, I'll send like a Christmas closer to when people are buying for Christmas. So, for us, that's like fall. But I'll just thank them and remind them. I'll have like a QR code that has like the link to purchase. I'll send them that. And then if I'm trying to get someone to order, I'll email them. And then I'll also send them another postcard. So I'm a very postcard-based store here. But I just find that they're easy, especially if you can generate your QR codes. It's just another way, because our inboxes are always full. And I feel like if people get something in the mail that has your stuff, it's a great way to either invite people in or to like just continually remind people that you're there. And then I try to follow the businesses on Instagram, and then I try to engage with them. So if I'm sending out an order, sometimes I'll take a picture of the stack of boxes and tag all the companies, or if they do an unboxing video, I'll share it and be like, I love being in this store. If they're posting something exciting that's happening, in the owner's life, I'll try to comment on that, and not in a way of like but just not to try to be like, I don't know, just this is a way of being like, we're both humans and we both have lives, and we're both small business, we're both business owners, and I want to like, I want to like develop relationship with them, and then I think what that helps is, it keeps, because Faire can be impersonal. I think it tries to help make it a little bit more personable, and feel like we're creating a relationship between me and that buyer.
I really like that, because I think you need a lot of touch points to be top of mind, but also for it to feel kind of more personal. And it really seems to be working for you. So yes, there's the human connection, but there's also the business, because this is not just, for fun. And it seems to be working just with your increased rate of reorders. So congratulations on your strategy and seeing it through and it actually paying off. It's very cool. Well, thank you all for these tips. I thought they were really cool. Let us ask here. So for anyone who's thinking about getting into this business or adding this income stream for their business, what was the hardest thing, or what is the hardest thing and the best thing about selling on Faire for you?
I think one of the best things is that it's a really great platform. It's really slick. I actually prefer now getting orders through Faire rather than getting them directly to me. It's like such a great system. So basically you get an email when you get an order through, and you just have to accept it. And then, like Lucy said, you say the date that you're going to ship. And then you can print out a whole packing list. It shows you all it's like in a lovely format. It shows you all of the SKUs that they've ordered. So that's really nice and smooth and slick. And then you can it links through to the postage that you're going to use. So you can say, I'm going to ship with UPS. You don't even have to put in their bloody address. It's already all filled in for you. And then you just print the packaging label, weigh it all, and off it goes. It's so good. It's so easy. So I think that's a really nice thing that it does. The hardest thing was getting the momentum going. But once you've got it and keeping that going, then it's kind of like it kind of flies on its own bit. But yeah, I think that's the hardest and the best things for me personally.
I'd agree with that. I think, you've put that really well. It is like a really easy platform for us. And I feel like the retailers really like using it as well. Don't get many people say, oh, no, I don't want to use Faire. I think it's opened up so many opportunities for us, so many more retailers we wouldn't have worked with before. Kind of really grateful for those opportunities. But then, I think similar thing on the hardest thing, like it is a lot of work. Like you can't expect to join the platform and just sit there and be like, oh, great, okay, it's just running in the background. Like there is a little bit of that now that, yes, we've got a bit more momentum. But I mean, look how much work people are putting in, all these postcards you're sending and emails. And there's a lot, you do have to put the work in, because it is now about building those relationships, not just making a transactional thing. But with anything, you need to put the work in. It's just, you're running your own business. I don't think anyone gets into it thinking it's going to be really easy. So,
I would agree. I think the platform is just super user-friendly, especially, as a wholesaler. Just like you said, just being able to just put in the numbers and not need to be like, okay, I need to go to a separate platform to generate a packing label. And then I don't need to like type in all of these things.
And not having to chase people for invoices, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Or it's like, oh, this card got declined again, so let me like call their bill. Like I've done that. I still do that, with other clients and our customers. And, it takes time. Everything takes time. And so I think while Faire takes work, and I think sometimes the shifting rules, again, I feel this probably maybe a little bit more in the US, but the shifting rules has been more of a pain point, just because you are somewhat at their mercy. But I think if you continue to nurture those relationships, then Faire is a great tool. If you're expecting Faire to nurture the relationships and keep the customer happy and to keep you happy, I think that's expecting probably too much from Faire. So I think keeping it in the, this is a great platform. How can I create my relationships? How can it help generate relationships? How can it help facilitate my relationships? But I also need to be doing personal things on the side to stay in touch with the buyer and make sure that if this platform goes away, which I don't think Faire's going to go away anytime soon. But, I think with some of the things, it's like, if this goes away, do I have the information that I need? Do I have the customer information do I have ways of communicating with my buyers so that if this goes up in the air, and then I think that makes me comfortable using it and makes me feel more empowered as a Faire seller. So that when people freak out about things happening or their shop getting, closed down unexpectedly or whatever, I'm like, I don't feel that panic and I feel more confident in my ability to sell my products, which is what we're on there for, is to be salesmen for our products. And so, I think Faire is a great tool, and it's really helped my business a lot. And it seems to have helped a lot of our businesses. And so I'm grateful for it.
That's really great. And honestly, whenever I have conversations like this, I feel like the message is the same, but it's so important, which is, nothing great is going to come easy. Like none of these tools or income streams are just going to do the majority of the work for you. And you still have to wear so many different hats. So hopefully a tool like this can take some of the accounting issues or, some of these tasks away that I think, especially as artists or business owners, like maybe that's not why we got into our business. So it's nice if that's taken care of. But at the same time, you still have to be great at selling your work, at marketing, at, relationships. Like there's all these things, and it's not just going to happen overnight or automatically. So I think that's a realistic and a good reminder that it's a great tool. There's a lot of potential, but, you still have to put in the work. So this is the last chance here for the audience. There haven't been that many questions. There's another one I can show, but this is your chance. What questions do you have about Faire? What else do you want to know from these artists and from these business owners? And while you think of those and put those in the chat, I'm going to pick out one more question out of here. Let's see. All right. I think, Lucy, you touched on this a little earlier. And if you don't do them, that's cool too. But do you sell on these Faire markets? And should artists be doing that? Do you think they're helpful? Do you know anything about them, any of you?
So the summer and winter ones, is this?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there's just a kind of brief overview. There's one in January. It's like a winter market and summer market in the summer, funnily enough. And I think it's to mirror like the buying seasons that you'd normally see from big retail, because they'd normally open up their buying season to be like the winter market to buy in thinking in Christmas, and then the summer market to buy to think for the next summer. That's how the buying industry works. But I think because you're now working with independent retailers, they're using it as an opportunity to, just get a nice little deal on their, on their coming orders. So, and how it works is, it depends each time, but Faire will put in a discount. So to take part in the market, you need to put a discount on your store. You can choose that. It can be as little as 5% minimum that you have to stick with. It's possibly 10, depending where you are. And Faire will match up to a certain discount as well. And that discount used to be much juicier than it is now, but they're basically kind of doing discount matching. So we're now seeing, because the next one's starting, is it next week or the week after? Soon. Next week. So we've kind of seen orders quieten off a little bit now, because I think people are now waiting for their discounts in the market, which is fine. We promote it. We want our customers to get a good offer. Only do what you can afford. And so I think they're worth taking part in personally, but obviously probably maybe different from an artist's point of view.
Are there incentives as well? Sorry, are there incentives that you know from Faire, or it's just you as your shop offering?
Yes. Yeah, you have to offer a discount to take part, but Faire will match it up to a certain level. So if I give 5%, they'll give 5%. If I give 10%, they'll also give 5%. So it goes, the customer is getting 15% off. Okay. So there is some incentive there. Yeah. Okay.
Cool.
Yeah, no, I think one of the main things with wholesale is you have to make sure your margins work for you to make money. So you have, like, if you have healthy margins, being able to give a percentage off should work, but sometimes it doesn't, because there's some businesses that there's more labor. Like the moment that labor goes up, your costs are going to increase. So there's some businesses that I'm sure it's just not feasible to offer a discount. So I've participated, I think, since the Faire market started, and here they kind of match. So we have trade shows in January and trade shows in August, and they kind of match the big trade show season that we have here in the States. But I've participated in quite a few. The first few I got zero orders. And then the past few have been really good. And I think it's been more, I've done like tiered discounts. They offer you like the ability to offer tiers. And I set my first tier at like a little bit above my average order value to kind of incentivize people to purchase a little bit more. Yeah. And Faire will match now up to 5% Faire will match. So I found it to be helpful. I do market it a lot to my list. I'm like, hey, this is what's coming. when I've done a lot of cold pitching the past few weeks, being like, hey, fair market is coming. This is a great time to, try out my line because you're getting a great deal. Or, you're getting an incentive pretty much. And I've seen that it's been really helpful. And then there's some people who just really want to buy it on the markets, which is great in one sense for me, because then I know who I need to be pitching to at this time of year. So I can go back and be like, who ordered at the last summer market, and just make sure, and just to get those reorders again. It's been really effective.
That's very cool. I don't know if you hear the knocking in the background. Sorry, my kid and my husband knocking. So anyway, that's really useful. I really like that idea too that you mentioned of, seeing how you can kind of direct them to maybe a higher order value. You're offering the discount, but at the same time, you're giving that extra kind of incentive that's also going to help your business, because again, it has to be kind of fair and workable and favorable for everyone. So interesting take. Cool. Sophie, do you want to add anything? Otherwise, I'll bring up one last question from the audience here.
That's fine. Let's go to the question.
All right. So the question here is regarding descriptions and keywords. Can you add a list of keywords, or is that spammy? I don't even know. Is there a place for keywords in Faire?
Don't think there are. It's not like, if you're adding things on Pinterest, you can add a load of tags, can't you? But I don't think you can do that. No. So I'd just say give it a nice, long, detailed name.
Can you do descriptions of things, or is it really just the name?
Descriptions, yeah. So it would be like the name of something, and then once you click in the product, you'll give a full description, like you would on any store. You say about the dimensions and what it's made of in a very nice, explained way. Yeah, but it's not a hashtag kind of based or anything like that.
Okay. All righty. Well, thank you for that. Sounds like you can just add it in the description, kind of maybe in the text, or, if you want to.
In a nice way. Don't list a load of, random words.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I think that I heard on someone's podcast that retailers can pull this product description into their, they can download those and just reuse your product description.
So they don't want all that junk in there.
So you want to make sure that whatever. I mean, sometimes I have stuff I'm like, well, this is the whole they need to know is for wholesale, but I try to just make sure that the copy is clean and they have good info in that they don't need to try to sift through or be like, oh, I need to delete this chunk or that chunk. So I try to keep the description pretty pertinent to the information they need, a little bit about my business, but keeping it pretty crisp.
That's really helpful. Thank you both. Alrighty, so now this is your final chance as the panel here. Is there anything that we didn't discuss that you really wanted to bring up? This is your last chance before we end the live stream.
I think it's good to have a strong bio. So on your shop page, you'll have, you can write a bio all about yourself, about your brand. That's a really nice way to introduce yourself. Especially if someone's looking for something that is quite niche or something that's handmade. So they'll instantly see your page and then be able to read that information about you. You can also put, you can click certain things which will say that you're not on Amazon, that you're female owned, that you're made in the UK or whatever. Just really nice pinpoints that will attract people to you as well. So that's kind of like your storefront, and that's the first thing someone's going to see. So it's a really nice way to kind of grab someone's attention, and they'll be able to see if you're their vibe, if you know what I mean. If you're the right vibe for their store that they're trying to fill with the kind of products that they want to fill to match their style, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It's a good way to grab someone's attention.
That's a good tip. Yeah, for all of us who've never really seen behind the scene of Faire, that's a good thing to know, that you land on the bio and it matters, and you should actually spend some time filling that out.
It's like landing on someone's Instagram account. You kind of get a feel for them immediately. Yeah. So it's really worth spending some time getting that to look how you want. And also you can do, I don't think anyone's mentioned this, collections. So you can, at the very top of your page, you can put, these are all my Christmas cards collections. These are all my Valentine's cards. And then these are all my Easter cards. So they can instantly go into that. And if they want, they can just order the whole range. So that's really good. And also, you can order things, the whole arrangement of your display. So make sure your best sellers are right at the top, you know, like your favorite cards, or the ones that you know people aren't going to be able to resist. So it's really good, like organization, and you can make it look pretty, basically, which is quite important to me. Hope that's helpful.
It reminds me I need to go probably rearrange my shop page. You're telling me all these, they're like, I haven't looked at that in a while. I should go check it out.
You got a few days before fair market, right?
Another thing on the to-do list. Yeah.
And probably nothing else to do. You're just bored and waiting for things to add.
Right. There's also a header image, like a long, narrow header image, similar to what Sophie says. It's good to have, like, you know, your product front and center, and just and as she said again, like good quality photography is always very helpful, and you want to entice people to like your stuff.
Cool. Thank you for those tips. Any other last minute?
One final tip I just thought of, we were talking about nurturing the relationship, and something we do and have found that it works really well is once someone's ordered, we'll send them a message, you know, to say thank you for your order, etc., etc. And obviously you can add things into the parcel and follow them on social media, but within that message we provide then extra things that we do to help them sell. So we provide them with a link to our Google Drive. It has all of the stock imagery they need. It has all of the marketing assets. If we do a marketing campaign, they get the assets for it. We give them posters, point of sale stands. Like, we're trying to like build out the whole proposition. And so you kind of go into it thinking, okay, great, I've kind of shifted the product off to this person, but the more they sell, the more they will buy from you. So think of it as like, how can I help them in selling more? And there's so much you can do, obviously, like from an artist point of view, be slightly different from a sock point of view, but it's, you know, it does really help. And because not everyone's doing that, it will help you stand out and be, you know, the good person. It helps them stick loyal to you because, you know, you're treating them well, basically. It's, you know, as we've said before, it's two humans just interacting then.
That's really brilliant. I really like that. I had not thought of that, but that makes a lot of sense, because without the whole story of your bio, your page, all this, right? Like maybe the story doesn't tell itself. So to give them something that helps them, you know, present all that, that's really cool. I think recently on your, maybe it was Instagram, I don't know. Do you also provide like stands and things, or is that separate?
Yeah, I don't know how well you can see in the background. Oh, it's a bit far away, but we're experimenting with a lot of this at the moment. So we've got, you know, little ones that, you know, are like at the counter level and impulse buy, but then we've got big ones that spin, and we've like branded them. So, you know, think of it as, yes, it's an expense, but we do sell them, but we give them to certain orders over like £1,000, for example. But this is your chance to kind of get your brand into someone else's shop. So, you know, you can help shape that experience. So there's all kinds of little things you could do. Like, you know, if it's cards, maybe there's like a stand that you'd have them in, but you want your branding out there. So we've developed that proposition. Now we're getting into, you know, wooden, more substantial stands, but we didn't start in that way. We started with cardboard. We've experimented with a few different things. I don't know if you can see right at the top there, you can see maybe a foot on the top shelf. Yeah. So that's, you know, we're trying to do it from a sock point of view, but it's starting to help us. And especially these ones, like the foot, for example, people search for that and start buying us. Even if they don't buy our socks, they might buy a certain amount. So we're starting to become like a merchandiser of all these stands, a seller of all these stands, as well as the socks. So it builds out the whole proposition.
That's very cool. I really like, you've kind of thought through end to end the experience for the buyer and then the end consumer.
But it looks great right now, but it's been a journey. Like, we didn't start with all of this. Like this is kind of like, we're always iterating, always thinking of a new way of doing it and making it easier. So, you know, don't be kind of put off that, oh, I don't have any of that. You can start, you know, with a few products, get your margins right, and then build up to that. So you're kind of coming into this, like, this is a good like couple of years in the making.
Journey. Yeah, that's really nice. Thanks for that reminder too, because it can sometimes feel almost like defeating, you know, where you're like, oh
yeah, it's overwhelming.
Yeah, funds to, you know, do this big, so there's no chance. But
one step at a time.
Fair, you know, you got to take it step by step.
And done is always better than perfect. So like, I feel like with
100%.
business, it's like you can always talk yourself out of like just putting it out there. Like, and you're always going to look back and be like, ooh, I did that thing, but it's so much better because until you do the thing, you're not going to get better at it and you're not going to keep progressing. So I think, we're all, at varying stages on the like farther down the line than if you're just starting. But like, seriously, like if you can get, 48 to 50, like, if you're greeting cards, like 48 to 50 products, if you can, start getting a catalog together, like just start pitching it, start doing it. And as you're going to like learn and be like, oh, I'm going to add this now. And like, even it's like, oh, I'm going to try this now. I'm going to add this now. But you need to start somewhere and like, don't wait until you think it's perfect to start. Just like start doing it. You're going to make mistakes. Sometimes you're going to look silly. I've looked silly many times and you survive looking silly. This is what I've learned as a business owner is like, I've done some really silly things and I've made it through them all. And we're running a business now. So.
Well, I think looking at one of the things that usually looks like a problem, you can also spin it the other way. So sometimes it's just about perspective. Like you all said at the beginning, things were kind of slow for you on Faire, right? So like there's no reason not to get it up because probably, people aren't going to be running down your door the first week anyway. So you have time to kind of learn as you go, right? Before you really are hit with a bunch of orders. So
absolutely. Yeah.
And not like sad, but realistically, that's probably going to happen.
And that's such good advice because the thing is, if you get to like the perfect proposition, you've probably launched too late. Like you kind of missed an opportunity. Like maybe
no one wants your perfect thing, so it's like
exactly. You don't know.
Right?
What perfect for you might not actually be right for a retailer. So you want to get started and start getting feedback. So when we launched our socks, had like a cardboard wrap packaging. We launched with that, and then people were coming to us saying, "We really want a way to be able to hang these." And I was like, "Duh!" But we were an online seller, so now we've had now 3 different types of packaging iterated over the last like 18 months to make it better for retail. But we didn't start with that, and you don't need to. So I think, done is definitely better than perfect.
Yeah. And the retailers are going to tell you what they want. And that's great. Yeah, and then if you respond to their feedback, they feel even better about your business. Like,
that's great. That's a plus. Yeah. You almost want to have something you can improve just so you can prove to them that, I'll listen to you and improve that.
Yeah.
That's cool. And you could have spent so much money on like having thousands and thousands of those made, and then they'd have all gone to waste, wouldn't they?
Exactly.
Because you don't know what it's like to run a store, do you? I mean, I don't. So get all the feedback you can get.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, and like you'd mentioned, things that work online, it's different, right? Because you can show the product, you can do a video, you can, whatever. People kind of know you probably before they purchase something. So, I mean, that's something, it's silly, but I was thinking about that with my own tea towel packaging. It's literally just a belly band. But I'm like, well, if it were ever to go to retail, in order for people not to open it up all the time, it would have to have an image of like, what is this even? Because it's folded up, you can't see it. I didn't do that right now because right now it's like online, direct to consumer, people can see it. And it would have been more expensive for me to have like all the different designs and things printed. But I think it is just something that even occurred to me, and I don't have a retail store. So that's like a very simple thing. But I'm sure actual retailers have so much more feedback about, well, this is how I can sell your product in the store.
Yeah. Because once you send it off to wholesale, it's kind of out of your hands. And it's like, it could just arrive at a store and they put it in a rubbish little corner that no one's going to see. So I think Lucy's comments about having, like ways showing them how to display them is amazing. And like the new sock stands and things, it's just great. I really love that tip. It's kind of like, this is how you're going to sell them most.
And I've had a retailer reach out and I've asked questions and they've asked questions and I haven't like provided a display or I don't have the ability to do that, but I was able to go and like research and be like, this is the best display. There's a few display companies and I was able to send her links. I'm like, these displays would work great with these few products. And sure enough, she's like, I'm not sure how I display that. And I'm like, well, here's links to some options. And then she's like, well, this is great. And then she placed an order. So even if you're not able to like, even just being able to be like, okay, how would I display that? And then like, do I have a link to show like how she could possibly do that? Or like the link to the product that might help them.
So good. That's a perfect example of that, of like, you don't have to get the stuff in perfect done ready. If you don't want to put the cash in, test it. If you've now got a retailer testing something you've advised, and if they come back and say this was so amazing, I sold double, then you're like, oh, maybe I could invest in some to give to and then it goes from there. So you don't have to have the end proposition, and it almost should be there is no end proposition. You should always be thinking, what's next, what's changed, what's there's going to be different things that pop up, and different for different businesses. So
yeah,
so true.
And I just think this last conversation is so helpful, because when you sell something direct to consumer, maybe you're thinking about how are they actually going to use this in real life, but you're talking about the actual product, right? But this is a whole different scenario where making the sale alone is kind of worth nothing, because if they're unable to sell them through, right, they will never come back, and they will not have a good view of your product. So it makes a lot of sense to really think about, how do I help that person now make a good sale, have a good experience, translate what I would usually tell the customer to their customers. So I think that's really key, because it's not just about the technical setup of Faire, or how do I get in, but how do I make it effective and a good buying experience for those retailers. Very helpful. Well, thank you all so much for sharing your time and your expertise. This was really interesting, and I learned a lot, and I know everyone watching also just really got a lot out of this. So thanks for answering my questions and the audience questions. I'm going to hide you all now and just do a really quick outro. Thank you so much for joining us. So cute.
Oh.
So adorable.
Alrighty, so I'm going to end here with 2 tiny personal plugs. So the first one is, you might know I'm on episode 14 of this live streamed podcast, and I want to make sure it's actually good for you when you're watching. So can you let me know? I often ask quite similar questions for the different topics. So what is your favorite question of all the ones that I asked, either today or in general? Let me know in the chat, or if you're watching the replay, in the comments, because I want to make sure it's actually helpful and it's what you're expecting. And if there's something that I never ask and you just wish I would, feel free to put that in the comments as well. And then my last second personal plug is that I mentioned before, after a year and a half or something of painting and finding manufacturers and sampling and everything, I finally have my own online shop open on Etsy. So if you would check it out, it's harmonyharden.etsy.com. I would love it if you have a peek. And if it's not for you, maybe you know someone, a friend, a family member that you think would really love the aesthetic. So please share it with them. Thank you. I really appreciate it. And I will see you again soon for the next one. I really hope that you enjoyed today's conversation, and I always hope that you walk away having learned something, or feeling inspired, or having made a connection in some way. That is really my goal. So let me know in the chat, if you're still around, whether that happened for you. What was your biggest takeaway from today's podcast? And by the way, we are back on the every 2 week schedule right now. Yes, I have the next one already planned for July 29th. So make sure that you are subscribed over here and over on Instagram, so you don't miss any of the future topics. There's also, like I said, this is episode 14, so there's 13 other episodes. If you haven't watched them all yet, go have a peek at everything that has been live streamed on this channel. And please also make sure to check out our artists. I have everything linked here, and just check them out to put what they shared today in perspective. I think having seen their accounts, having seen their art and all that, it just really helps link that with what they shared today. So make sure to check them out and give them a follow if you are feeling inspired.